WarioWare was one of the standouts of the Game Boy Advance. It featured rapid-paced minigames set in some bizarre Wario world that required you to constantly pay attention or risk losing in a blink of an eye. While the series has its roots in a Nintendo 64 disk drive minigame, the GBA was truly its home. Between that and Advance Wars, multiple summers seemingly disappeared in a blink of an eye from a polar opposite compared to that. In doing research for this video, it was a bit of a surprise to realize that there weren't many WarioWare clones in the years that followed, even not a clone, which it totally was a clone, and a PSP title called Bato Hell 2000, or Byte Hell 2000, and again, I'm sure I've mispronounced that. Might find. Enter Climax Los Angeles. The team had its eyes set on the new Nintendo DS hardware, and they had their own ideas for a WarioWare clone featuring all sorts of microgames. Climax had a strong relationship with Disney, having worked on multiple licensed titles for them, so Disney was a logical choice for a license to help spruce up their idea. But we're not talking The Lion King here, or even a Pixar title like Monsters Inc. or Finding Nemo. Maybe Pirates of the Caribbean? Nope. Lizzie McGuire and That's So Raven. Two games brought together in one amazing package. With the two TV shows set to be rebroadcast to a younger generation this year, that's so fitting. I have to say, while I do sound a bit sarcastic while I cover this game, especially since I'm just not that into the properties, the game actually isn't terrible in its early form. Disney's Lizzie McGuire and That's So Raven was revealed at E3 2005 for the Nintendo DS, with the developer listed as A2M, Artificial Mind and Movement. Somehow, Climax seemed to be the one doing the majority of development here. The game seemed to have been targeting a November 2005 release date. In the game, fans were to be able to choose to play as Lizzie as she attempts to gain popularity and become homecoming queen, or as Raven as she hones her dance moves for the talent show. Each side of the game was separated, although both featured similar microgames. The Lizzie McGuire side of the game featured hand-drawn graphics, while Raven seems to utilize some poorly cut-out pictures. Over 100 microgames were planned, and many seem to have at least been partially functional here, with this build coming shortly after E3. The main competition mode is where the story would progress, with the player attempting 10 microgames in a row, followed by a final minigame event. Fail 3 times, and you would have to start at one point in development. Those cards could be used to help skip some minigames if you happen to fail, without any punishing effect. In between levels, a small cutscene would play, helping to give some sort of story to the game. A challenge trial mode is basically an arcade high score mode, which along with the game score could help earn the player tokens to buy new cards. Each of the stages were to have a different theme, like sunlight or water, or even princess themes. It's kind of what you'd expect out of a licensed Disney game in that regard. Minigames were split into different modes. Aim It would have the player moving and tapping the screen. Another called, or if that wasn't bad enough, you could also play the Shout Out games, which had you shouting into the microphone. Loads of fun in public, I swear. From what I can tell, the game died shortly after E3, with no press release or anything to it. But it's not all that bad, I swear. I think there is a market for microgames still, and with the right sort of angle or license, there could be room to succeed. Or Nintendo could just bring out a new WarioWare game like on the Switch. That would work too. Special thanks go to all the new Patreon supporters. Brian, Felipe, Sheridan, Stefan, Hikes, Thomas, Tony, Riga, Timic83, and as always there is at least one name that I will butcher worse than I did previously, Gilherme. Their support helps me to be able to cover games like this. The biggest piece of hardware that will be on its way shortly is a giant PS2 development tool, and along with it a few PS2 games that have simply never been seen before. These pledges and all of the others that have supported me over the years really do help make these things possible, and I cannot thank you enough. And with that, the second unreleased game of 2017 has been dug up and presented just for you. Do subscribe, check us out on Patreon at patreon.com/P2Ponline, and until next time, thanks for watching.